In the kingdom of Song, there was a small village nestled beside a clear river. The villagers were simple folk, their lives intertwined with the rhythm of the seasons, planting their crops in spring and harvesting in autumn. Among them lived a man named William, known for his impatience and constant desire for quick results. He had a modest field where he grew rice, but he was never satisfied with how slowly his crops seemed to grow. William would often stand at the edge of his field, watching his seedlings as if expecting them to shoot up toward the sky. "Why aren't they growing faster?" he would mutter, tapping his foot in frustration. Every day he hoped for a sudden spurt of growth, but the seedlings, like all plants, took their time, inching upward little by little, as nature intended. One evening, after another long day of staring at his stubbornly short plants, William came up with an idea. "If I want them to grow faster, why don't I just help them along?" he thought. His plan seemed brilliant in his mind, and he could hardly wait for morning to come so he could put it into action. At dawn, William set out to his field, determined to see results. He knelt down by the first row of seedlings and gently tugged each one upward, pulling it ever so slightly out of the soil. The plants stood taller now, and William smiled in satisfaction. "Look at that," he said to himself, "they're already bigger." For the rest of the morning, William worked his way through the field, pulling each seedling up, one by one. His fingers grew sore, his back ached, and by midday, he was drenched in sweat. But he didn't mind the exhaustion. He was thrilled with his progress. "Today, I've done more for my crops than anyone else in the village," he thought proudly. When he finally finished, William stood back to admire his work. The entire field looked taller, greener, and more robust. He could almost taste the bountiful harvest that awaited him. Satisfied, he went home to rest, feeling confident that he had outsmarted nature. That evening, as he sat down for dinner, William couldn't help but boast about his day's labor. "I've made my crops grow faster than anyone in the village," he announced, his chest puffed with pride. "While others are content to wait for nature to take its slow course, I've found a way to speed it up." His wife, Sarah, raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean, you made them grow faster?" "I helped them along," William said, as if explaining something obvious. "I pulled each one up, just a little bit, to give them a head start." Sarah gasped. "You did what? You pulled them out of the ground." "Not out," William corrected. "Just up. Now they're taller, and soon they'll grow even faster." But Sarah shook her head. "You fool! Plants need their roots deep in the soil. If you pull them up, they'll wither and die." "Nonsense," William replied, waving off her concerns. "You'll see. Tomorrow, my field will be the talk of the village." The next morning, eager to see his now towering seedlings, William rushed out to his field. But when he arrived, what he saw was not the lush, thriving crops he had imagined. Instead, his heart sank as he took in the sight of his plants, all wilted and drooping. The once green stems were pale and weak, and some had already fallen over, their roots exposed to the sun. What happened?" William stammered, kneeling beside the lifeless plants. He touched the soil around them. It was dry and cracked where he had disturbed it. The roots, now pulled from their secure place in the earth, could no longer hold the plants upright or absorb the nutrients they needed to survive. In his haste to make his crops grow faster, William had killed them. As he sat there, staring at the ruined field, his neighbors began to pass by on their way to the market. Seeing him among his withered crops, they stopped to ask what had happened. William, embarrassed and ashamed, tried to explain. I thought I could help them grow faster by pulling them up a little. I wanted them to be taller." The villagers exchanged looks of disbelief. One of them, an old farmer named Thomas, stepped forward and shook his head. "William," he said kindly, "plants grow at their own pace. You can water them, weed the field, and care for the soil, but you can't rush them. By pulling them up, you've only hurt them." Another neighbor added, "Nature has its own way of doing things. Good intentions won't change the natural order." William hung his head. He had been so focused on speeding up the process that he hadn't realized he was harming the very plants he wanted to nurture. His impatience had cost him his entire crop, and now he would have to start again from scratch. Over the next few days, William reflected on his mistake. He watched as his neighbors continued to tend to their fields with patience and care, allowing their crops to grow naturally. He realized that farming, like many things in life, required time and steady effort. Rushing it, no matter how good the intention, could only lead to failure. Determined to learn from his error, William decided to replant his field. This time, he worked slowly and carefully, ensuring that each seedling was properly planted and given the right amount of water and care. He no longer stood at the edge of his field, willing the plants to grow faster. Instead, he accepted that nature would take its course, and that all he could do was provide the right environment for growth. As the weeks passed, William's new crops began to sprout, growing healthy and strong. He tended to them with patience, pulling weeds and watering them diligently, but never interfering with their natural progress. And this time, when the harvest came, it was plentiful. The story of William's folly spread throughout the village, and it soon became a cautionary tale for others who were too eager for quick results. The villagers would often remind each other, "Don't be like William, pulling at your plants. Let them grow in their own time." And William himself would smile whenever he heard the saying, knowing that he had learned a valuable lesson. He had once tried to force his crops to grow faster, but now he understood the importance of patience, effort, and allowing nature to take its course. As he stood in his field, watching his crops sway gently in the breeze, he felt a sense of peace. There were no shortcuts to success, he realized. Everything, whether in farming or life, had its own rhythm. And sometimes, the best thing you could do was simply wait.